What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Black Student Success Podcast, where we bring you insight and guidance from successful Black professionals and students. My name is Elvin, and as always, we appreciate the support. So we have Justin Roby back on the podcast to talk about what it's like to be, a day in his shoes as the Director of HIV Care. And in our last podcast, he talked about, his path getting into public health, everything that he's picked up and what has led him to get into this position, and all the important things that kind of follow that and that he has to, really keep in mind as he's doing his work. So we're going to actually talk about what it's like to kind of be in his shoes, things that he's thinking about, things that he's doing, people he's meeting with. All of those things are going to kind of, be in this episode. So Justin, welcome back. How are you doing?
Doing good. Excited to keep spreading these here knowledge nuggets.
Absolutely. All right. So why don't you just give our audience just an idea of kind of, what your position is, what scope are you working within, who you're serving, before we kind of get into the day-by-day duties.
Absolutely. So as the Director of HIV Care, I work for Diverse and Resilient, which has been around for about 25 years here in the Milwaukee area, serving particularly Black queer people in Milwaukee. We do STI testing and treatment. We do HIV prevention services as well as PrEP navigation and now HIV care services. We also do work with the trans community and support and engagement. As far as we have a trans closet, we have support groups. So fun things at DNR. We are funded through our state health department and a few other organizations to do all of this work. But my particular program is called the Peer Navigator Program. Again, for people living with HIV, helping people navigate through the HIV care world, whether that is getting into a clinic to be seen for your HIV care, whether it's medication adherence or getting a copay coupon or finding out the resources that are specifically aided out from a federal level for people living with HIV, which is very expansive. For someone who was new to the whole world, it took a lot of reading to catch up with all of these things. But so I can only imagine as a person, just living without knowing all of this, like, how does it feel? So great to be able to bring the resources to a community that really needs them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. So what is your kind of week look like? And I'm sure, with all the different things that are encompassed with this program, all the people that you're seeing, executives and things like that, talking to, folks who represent the state. What does your week look like? Is it very, is it linear? Is it, does it change day to day? Is it more so looking at a month to kind of get the scope of what you do? Tell us about what that actually looks like.
Definitely more like it's a day by day. I take it as it comes. I spend more of my time developing and loving on my staff than I do anything else, right? That means it's particularly because they are dealing with residual trauma. As they are working with the people that they're working with, they're hearing those raw stories and they're coming back with emotions all on their own. Mm-hmm. So I know that the biggest part of my job is to make sure that they can show up 100% for the people that they serve. And I think that's that responsibility of being a manager. I'm no longer responsible for the work. I'm responsible for the people who are responsible for the work. And so definitely, I wear many different hats. I go through many different meetings. We are actually in the middle of the changing of the guard is what we've been calling it. The state supervisor for care services recently, I want to say maybe 2.5 years ago, was switched over to Miss Amy Wick. And it has been like a breath of fresh air because they've been rolling out new policies. So a lot of my work is helping to inform policy and make sure that it aligns with people who are living with HIV, making sure that it is effective and would be appropriate for our community, ensuring that it is an accurate use of our resources and that it's really going to make a difference. And so right now we're working on like the standards of care. So we spend a lot of time just establishing this is the bare minimum that your services should be offering. And anything above is great, but we are not accepting anything below this. So really helping to shape what the HIV care world looks like, not only within my program, but around the state of Wisconsin. And as a really developed program, because even before Amy, Wisconsin had a very, very beautiful HIV care program, and all we're doing is enhancing it. So I spend, again, a lot of my time in meetings around those. I also spend a lot of my time in board meetings, so helping people outside of the industry also understand what's happening inside the industry. But yes, and then a degree of reports, like any other position, just making sure that we're able to explain our things both quantitatively and qualitatively. But I think that qualitative piece is more important than a quantitative piece. Being able to give life to those numbers is life changing. Because again, as a Black queer man, I bring a new purview that has not been heard before in the spaces that I've been in. As a matter of fact, it's 2021 and I walk into a room and I'm the only Black man. And so I love the fact that I am, again, able to bring this unique purview, uplift the brilliance of my team. Because again, I think they are smarter than I am. And I'm just lucky to be in this role with them. And I get to uplift that and I get to capture that in the writing. I get to capture the essence of our beings in this report, in these reports that help explain why we do what we do. There is, I wouldn't say a litany of emails regularly, but you know how that goes, being a professional. So being able to manage those, I think is very important, you know. So I spend every day, I wake up, after I read my headlines in the news, I'm reading emails. And I might not respond right away, but I'm processing throughout the day. Like I've seen that email and I need to be able to get back to it. And then before the end of the day, that email gets a response, you know. So learning how to juggle the multiple things and the multiple projects. And because once we came on the market and we were written in this federal report, people start calling and asking for more information and asking us to serve in different capacities. And so we have to, as a unique program, step up and provide. And so it's a beautiful journey to be able to do such a thing, you know, to be able to provide that insight, to provide this new purview against so many people. But partner with so many people, right? Collaborations that I didn't see coming, didn't think would be possible. Those conversations are being held. Particularly, my program has what we call a community advisory board, and we meet once a quarter. And that body of knowledge helps to inform what we're doing. This last time that we met, we increased our referral capacity by just reshaping it and figuring out a new way, a new approach. And so continuously just making sure that I am meeting with the right people, advocating for the right resources, reporting and making sure I'm uplifting the experience of the people who have lived experiences are the key details that I, on a regular basis, make sure that I'm doing.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of processing that you're doing, and I'm sure that you're kind of finding, you know, maybe what finding 2 minutes of time where you don't have anything to do. I'm sure that's gold. You know, once you've kind of gotten into this area where you are, you know, like you said, managing people, managing information, and then being able to have to get yourself in a position where you can, address folks and still be, have that level of advocacy and professionalism that, people are expecting. I do want to take a turn towards the aspect of managing those people who are on the front line, and especially with you coming in with your unique perspective, maybe your the folks who report to you, or even the people who are at the same level when you walk into a room and you're the only Black man there. What is it like, or kind of what have you seen in terms of people receiving your perspective, not only as a manager, but also as, a person in, quote unquote, high power and influence? What has that been like?
I'm still getting used to it, to be frank, because I've never been one to operate in the spotlight. I've always been the one in the background who wanted to be super supportive and give you all the information to like go out. I was almost like the Bear Rustin to Martin Luther King. So I also love Bear Rustin. But so to be in these spaces, it's beautiful to have a respect that I don't think I've had in other spaces before, and understanding that what I'm saying actually has some value to it, some weight to it, and to see people welcoming and receiving what I'm saying. I also use this space when I'm advocating for my team. And so one thing that I'm really proud of that I've been able to do is to advocate for funding for my team to get mental health support. So I said earlier that they deal with residual trauma. So I can't expect them to continue to show up if we're not also helping them to treat their residual trauma that we're putting them at risk for because of the nature of the work that we're doing. And that I think that is another unique purview that others haven't considered, especially as this field has a high degree of turnover. Right. So when we talk about reshaping and reinvesting and empowering a program and a community the way that we are, we have to reframe our thinking. We can't be um, uh, uh, like the top down approach isn't how it works. It's ineffective, right? We know what the goals are, but we also need to understand that it takes an investment to reach those goals. It does not happen by happenstance. It doesn't happen by chance, right? It has to be intentional work. And so to be in those spaces where I can say those things and it's received in a way that allows for real differences to occur and for my team to feel like they know um, I have their back, and they always let me know that they got my back. You know, when I come back and I say I need this, that, and the third, okay, we got you. But that comes because again, I'm advocating, and if they come back and tell me there's a need, I know I need to take that up. And so they are grateful for them because I was very much a timid, shy individual when I walked into this role. And while I have always been brilliant and can ask great questions, I've never needed to advocate the way I have now, right? Because that's a part of managing the people who are responsible for the job. I have to advocate not just for them, but for what they want. And so it's no longer about asking those critical questions. It's about, you know, this is what it is. This is our situation. And I believe this is the correct intervention. And this is a better allocation of those resources. So, yeah, it's refreshing to be received in a space and respected in a space where, you know, most people who look like me weren't even allowed to be in.
Yeah, no, it's a great accomplishment, you know, and realizing that early on. And it sounds like you've taken those steps, you know, especially with with your natural personality. You've taken those steps to, okay, all right, now I need to speak up a little bit more. I need to have these things in mind when it comes to these different meetings and when I'm meeting with the people who are, you know, directly serving the people that, you know, who we're trying to help. So it's and sometimes it does take, you know, kind of being thrown into the fire and, okay, now I got to really figure this out. I really got to lean on those mentors that I've talked to before and, you know, figure out what's going to be my way to be successful at this. So it sounds like you've done that in the, you know, short period of time that you've been in that position. So and I'm sure, again, once you have that time to reflect on kind of what you've accomplished, then there's more that you can do. There's one piece I wanted to actually get into is so specifically like with working in public health and for folks who are HIV positive and are trying to figure out these ways to to one, get the care that they need, and to get the figure out how to, I guess, reach some kind of level of normalcy. What has that been like, to kind of, think in terms of the resources from their perspective? Because I'm sure with anybody who's getting into any type of public health, they might not have had experience all those things of the people that they're trying to serve. So what has that been like for you, as you're kind of, relatively new to public health, even though you've had that strong community background?
So I find that people who enter the field, especially in the frontline area, aren't always aware of what all it entails. So when I say that, and I always keep saying the residual trauma, like they weren't prepared for that. They wanted to make a difference. They thought everything was going to be unicorns and glitter. And when you come in and you realize people have some tough stories and tough backgrounds and similar to ours, you kind of start to reshape and reevaluate how does that look. And so it does feed to burnout. there has been people who come into the field. Like there have been times when I first got into this field, no, this ain't for me. Because you are faced with a litany of barriers. Like you sit here, and I mean, I spent years critiquing this system before, like I said, as a fellow, as a person who engaged in healthcare, because I was always just taught myself, go see a doctor, do the things. I critique this system harshly. And now that I'm in the system, it's like, now I understand. Now I understand why so many things have perpetuated the way that it has. But stigma, how do we end it? That's really, if we talk about what's perpetuating, HIV and the disproportionate rate that it's going currently, it's really stigma. It's medical and research mistrust. And how do we, as people who are still fighting our own medical and research mistrust ourselves, help establish that trust into a system that has historically not done right by us? People will say it all the time. COVID really brought it up about the Tuskegee experiments and other ways in which science has harmed the Black community. But here we are coming to say, yep, y'all got to trust them. We know that this is going to be effective. We believe that this is a system that's going to work. So it's continuously reevaluating and making sure that we're looking to our resources to again invest in them. My team gets coaches. I let them know right away when they come in. I know you have passion projects that are beyond just HIV. So we're going to work on developing the whole you. And I think that helps prevent burnout because it gives them another, I wouldn't say a carrot, but something else to work towards, because it's not all HIV related, everything within our community, though most of their passion projects end up somehow being correlated into HIV work, which makes it easier for me because they're like, oh, I can support that with funding and but those types of things only happen if you are intentional as a leader to make sure that your team has access to those things, right? So if I want them realistically to feel like they can do or make a difference in their community, I need them to be empowered to feel that way. And that comes from me also unlearning through the supervisors that I've had, because I've had supervisors who I feel I could have operated differently and encouraged me differently and would have gotten a better result. So I continue to find myself in those situations like, okay, I remember when I got rolled up for this. What am I going to do with this younger staff of mine who's doing the same things that I used to do? Right. So providing coaching, providing those candid conversations, and then just telling them, just like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. My boss wrote me up, but I'm not gonna write you up. I don't believe in that, but we do need to grow from this. So how do we do it? Having those open conversations, because inevitably I want for my younger staff to replace me. I don't want for me to walk away from this position in 5 or 6 years and, a white person comes in to do it because, that's who typically applies for well-paid, good jobs, with degrees and all of that. I don't want to see me replaced with someone like that. I want to build up the next leader. I want to make the leaders that this organization will need in the future to be what this community needs to be.
I love the fact that you are kind of thinking ahead and specifically with the staff that you are working with. You mentioned just like the high burnout rate. And for those industries that do have that, using the same word that you use, intentional of, what you're kind of pouring back into the people that, that you're supporting, that are doing that work. I think that's great to have that mindset of, it's this level of selflessness in that case, because you could get into this position and be like, okay, I'm good. I just got to do my job and, make it back home. But you're really, taking that time to, be a thoughtful and intentional manager, not only for the people directly, but for what that program that you're helping building and continuing to grow. So that's really good information there. Last question that I do have for you is, how do you address your own self-care? There's a lot that you're taking on, within the work that you do, within the people that you're interacting with. How do you maintain your, level of self-care so that you can be the best you?
So for me, my family is how I, address self-care. I watched my mom struggle for a while as a single parent, an uneducated single parent. And now to be able to be a provider for her, making sure that she gets a hot meal, comes home, we unwind and discuss our day together. When she gets off of work, I also have my niece. Me and her play Minecraft mindlessly for hours and just like, okay, at some point we need to go to bed. Um, but also just encouraging her to read. I never would have imagined I would be the person who would love to be in a garden. Because I always hated being dirty. I always hated touching the bugs and all that. But here I am, like learning, researching, how can we do better? So we've started composting, we started recycling. All of those things for me helps fulfill me from an existential perspective. Doing less harm because we do have to exist in this world, but I think humans are very wasteful. And so trying to not be wasteful and find ways to make a positive impact, right? Instead of throwing all of this food in the garbage, we can now compost it and our future garden will benefit from it, right? Instead of throwing all of these things in the garbage, so coming up with these systems to make life just feel easier, feel smoother. But more than any of that, my music is my self-care. I have thousands of hours worth of music on my playlist. So like one of my favorite albums of all time, I can already tell this is going to be because like several of his tracks have made it to my top 25 most playlists on my phone. Lil Nas X Montero's album just spoke to my entire soul. And so again, music just does it for me. I'm able to exist and listen to all of the things that the artists are saying, pouring their life out, their lived experiences that are much different than my own, but somehow connects with me in a different way, right? And so I can cut my library on, hit shuffle, and have these headphones on until the battery dies. And that's peace for me because now it's just me with my thoughts, enjoying life, and being out in nature. So if I can combine the two of those, like sitting on my porch and what I call ghetto live TV, because I stay in the hood, I get to enjoy because you only live once, right? And so those are those moments that I get to unwind. I'm not worried about getting anything done because I forever have a to-do list. But I need those times where I can sit back, have an adult beverage, chill on the porch, and just listen to my music. I think it's important for everyone to have a self-care plan and to figure out what really brings them joy.
Yeah, no. So music is a big one for me too. And so what I imagined, was the movie Soul, when everybody gets into that space and it's just kind of them and they're just vibing with whatever. That's me. Some evenings I'm cooking. I've got Anderson .Paak playing. I'm in the zone. so I totally get that. But absolutely, you do need to have those moments of peace. Even if you have to schedule them and have those moments where you are removing yourself from, the stresses of the day. And you have that moment, like in your last interview, you said that you could just, authentically be you. So I appreciate you sharing that. First of all, and again, thank you for sharing what you kind of do and how you get through it, how you manage and how you think about, growing, the program yourself, you're the people that, that you are, support and report to you, to create like a better future. So any last words, in regards to all of that for our audience?
Be intentional with your time, right? Make time for those things that are important, including self-care, right? So scheduling time to study, scheduling time to go through your emails, schedule time to communicate with family and loved ones, but make sure you schedule your self-care time. And just be kind to yourself because you owe yourself that kindness.
Absolutely. Very well put. So again, Justin, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Thanks to everybody who's been watching and listening. Feel free to follow us at Inquire Higher. That's on Facebook and Instagram. You can check out our website, inquirehigher.com. You can reach us by email. That's contact@inquirehigher.com. We've got a lot of great resources on our website, so please do check it out. And until next time, take care.